Okay. So I think you know about lipids. We have discussed about these things in biochemistry, biochemical aspects of lipids. Yeah, its metabolism, chemical structure, and uh, about qualitative and quantitative test for lipids. Okay, in this lecture, our intention is not to focus much on biochemical aspects, but about nutritional importance of lipids. Okay, so before moving on to the today's topic, I thought of giving a summary of what we have done in the last week is well. We discussed about battery proteins and functions of proteins, protein sources, protein quality, and nitrogen balance, and protein complementation, uh, protein recommendations, and finally the dietary role of protein in weight management. Okay, and also we discussed about what is meant by essential amino acids. Okay, so with that, I will move on to the today's topic, lipids. Okay, then lipids, fats, and oils. What are the difference between those three terms? Are all the three terms are same or different? What is your opinion? Lipids, fat, and oil. First of all, you need to understand that clearly. Then what are the elements of lipids?
Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen.
Okay. Then you all know that carbohydrate also contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Then what is the difference between that structure in lipids and carbohydrates?
The ratio is more than 2 to 1 in hydrogen and oxygen.
Yes, good. The hydrogen and oxygen ratio is more than 2 to 1 in lipids. Yes, that is the basic difference between carbohydrate and lipids. Then we use the term lipids to denote chemical compounds generally which are insoluble in water and soluble in nonpolar solvents. Okay, so that's the basic definition for lipids. And under lipids, there are many such categories: triglycerides, waxes, sterols, uh, glycerophospholipids, sphingophospholipid, and glycolipids, such compounds. Okay, then fat and oils are a compound, a category of compound under lipids. Okay, so you need to understand that first. Okay, then what are the functions of lipids? You know the things very well. How we can categorize lipids based on functions. Okay, then lipids we can categorize. This is a very general uh, categorization. We can categorize lipids, not fats and oils. Okay, lipids based on function as energy storage. You know that we discuss about this in biochemistry. Dietary lipids are stored in the body as triglycerides. Okay, you know that in adipose tissue and liver, lipids are converted to triglycerides and stored in body. Even carbohydrates can be converted to triglycerides and stored in body. Then energy storage is such function, and triglycerides or fats and oils are that kind of lipid category. Then apart from that, you know that our cell membrane is comprised of phospholipids and there are cholesterol. So membrane structure, phospholipids and cholesterol are such lipids. So this is not fats and oils. Okay, you need to understand that. And emulsification. You know that digestion of lipids, usually bile acids are involved. So bile acids are a kind of lipid and it's not fat, usually not referred as fat like category, fat like category. And messenger molecules, steroid hormones and eicosanoids are such messenger molecules which categorize under lipids, but they are not fats and oils. Okay. And protective coating. Biological waxes are a kind of lipid, but it is not fat and oil. Okay. So these are few uh, lipid categories based on function. Okay. Apart from that, what are other biological functions of lipids? You have learned this in your advanced level as well as in your ordinary level classes. You can say many functions of lipids. Can you think few?
Energy source.
Yes, energy source. Lipid is a very good energy source. Unlike carbohydrates and proteins, lipid can provide about 9 kilocalories per gram energy. So it is more than twice of that is provided by carbohydrate and proteins. Yes, it's a good energy source. Other than that,
This is part of cell membrane.
yes, it's a part of cell membrane. Yes, good. So we can tell many functions of. Yes.
Absorption of vitamin.
Yes, absorption of vitamins. You know that some vitamins are fat soluble. So in order to get them to our body, we need lipids. So insulation from environment. It's a other biological function of lipid, and it can absorb heat. And you know that our adipose tissue is composed of lipids, and thereby you know that we have a constant temperature. We need to maintain a constant temperature in our body to survive. Unlike other animals, we have to strictly maintain that. So lipid do a great job to maintain a to regulate temperature in our body. And also it provides mechanical protection, can absorb shocks because most important organs in a human body are surrounded by lipids. Okay. And water repellent. And this hydrophobic nature keeps surface of the organs dry. And it is another biological function of lipid. And cofactors of enzymes, vitamin K, it blood clot formation. It is responsible for, it is useful for blood clot formation. And coenzyme, some coenzymes are composed of lipids, and lipids act as signaling molecules also. And you know that actually the sex hormones, steroids, testosterone, estrogen, they are uh, lipid-based hormones. Okay. Other than that, vitamin E like antioxidants are lipids. Tocopherols and tocotrienols, they are a category of lipids. So these are few biological functions of lipids. Okay. So when we are talking about lipids, especially when considering the nutritional importance of lipids, we need to much focus on fats and oils. Okay, thereby I will give much emphasis on fats and oil in this lecture. Okay, so when considering fats and oils, you know that fats and oils are a category of lipid. Okay, when we thinking about lipids, fats and oil is not the only lipid. Okay, there are other categories of lipids like sterols or steroids, phospholipids, sphingolipids, waxes, like things. Okay, they are not composed of triglycerides. They have other chemical structures. Okay, when we talking about fats and oils, they are composed of triglycerides. Okay, you know the structure of triglycerides, how it what is the structure of triglycerides, how it is made. Triglycerides or triglycerols. Yes, one triglyceride or triglycerol is made from one glycerol molecule and 3 fatty acids. Okay. එතකොට මෙතන තියෙන ප්‍රධානම දේ තමයි fat lipid ගැන කතා කරද්දී fats and oil පටල ගන්න එපා. Fat and oil කියලා කියන්නේ lipid වල category එකක්. නමුත් lipid සමානයි fat and oil කියන එක වැරදි. Okay. Triglycerides වලින් තමයි fats and oils හැදලා තියෙන්නේ usually. එතකොට lipid category lipid හැම එකම triglyceride වලින් නෙමෙයි හැදලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් sterols වගේ ගත්තොත් එහෙම they have steroid nucleus or fused rings, 4 fused rings, like a complex structure. It is not like this. Okay, so fats and oil is a category of lipid. You need to understand that clearly. Sometimes when referring our school syllabus, we usually think fats and oils are the only category of lipids, but it's not. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, then fatty acids, we need to talk about fatty acids. It has a vital nutritional role in our body. Okay, fatty acids, there are about 40 fatty acids found in nature, and fatty acids have carbon atoms in the range of 4 to 24 and are usually even numbered. It means usually fatty acids have even numbered carbon atoms. It means 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24 like atoms. Okay. I mean, fatty acids වල තියෙන්නේ ඉරට්ටේ සංඛ්‍යාවක carbon atom සාමාන්‍ය naturally තියෙන fatty acids වල. කියන්නේ 2 4 6 8 10 12 14 16 18 20 22 24 වගේ. Okay, and those occurring in nature fatty acids can be classified into 2 types: saturated fatty acids and unsaturated fatty acids. And usually unsaturated fatty acids, we can further classify them into monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Okay, when we are thinking about the nutritional role of fats and oils, this is very important. Okay, and fatty acids are organic acids and chain of carbon with hydrogen attached, and that has an acid group at one end and a methyl group at the other end. Okay, it is like this. It has a methyl group in one end and acid group in the other end, and in between there's a long or short or medium sized carbon chain, carbon made out of carbon and hydrogen. Okay, so I gave this information because when we talking about omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids, it is required. Okay, then saturated fatty acids, you know that saturated fatty acids or saturated fat saturated fat is composed of saturated fatty acids and a glycerol molecule. So usually when we talking about saturated fatty acids, it is referred to saturated fat because a saturated fat is made out of saturated fatty acids. Okay. Then this carbon saturated fat in saturated fatty acids, carbon chains filled with hydrogen atoms and no carbon-carbon double bonds. Okay. And triglyceride containing 3 saturated fatty acids such as animal fat. Saturated fat is referred as the triglycerides containing 3 saturated fatty acids. Usually, animal fats are considered saturated fat. Okay. And this kind of saturated fat generally appear solid at room temperature. Okay. When we refer in fat, the general definition for fat is that type of triglyceride which exist in the form of solid at room temperature, while oils are existed in the form of liquid in room temperature. So that's the general difference between fat and oil. Okay, there's no big solid scientific differentiate between fats and oil. Okay, then when we just refer fat, it means it usually contain oil. So fat and oil කියන එකේ ලොකු වෙනසක් නැහැ. අපි සාමාන්‍ය fat කියලා කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය කාමර උෂ්ණත්වය යටතේ solid ඝන අවස්ථාවේ තියෙන triglycerides වලට. Oils කියලා කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය කාමර උෂ්ණත්වයේදී ද්‍රව අවස්ථාවේ තියෙන triglycerides වලට. Then usually saturated fat is in the form of solid at room temperature. Okay, usually animal fats are saturated fats, and some tropical oils like palm and coconut oil are also contain a higher number of saturated fatty acids. We'll talk about this later. Okay, and you can see stearic acid, which has a 18 carbon and saturated fatty acids. You can see there's no double bond between carbon and carbon. Okay, so this is a kind of saturated fatty acid, and triglycerides made out of this kind of saturated fatty acids are called saturated fat. Okay. Then unsaturated fatty acids or unsaturated fat, they have one or more carbon-carbon double bonds in their chain. Okay. And usually these unsaturated fatty acids or unsaturated fat appear liquid at room temperature. Okay. So that's the basic difference between, and usually this kind of unsaturated triglycerides are called oils. Okay. Then monounsaturated fat. In monounsaturated fat, the triglyceride containing fatty acids with only one double bond. Okay. So canola oil, olive oil are oils which are rich in monounsaturated fat. Okay, in monounsaturated fat, there's only one carbon-carbon double bond. So oleic acid is such fatty acid containing only one carbon-carbon double bond. So here in stearic acid, it is also contain 18 carbon. Okay, then it is a saturated fatty acids. Then when it comes to oleic acid, it contains one carbon-carbon double bond. Then it is a monounsaturated fatty acid. It also contains 18 carbon. Okay. Then when it comes to the polyunsaturated fats containing high percentage of fatty acids with more than usually two or more than two double bonds. Then corn oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, and fish oil are such polyunsaturated fat. Okay, then linoleic acid. Again, it is a 18 carbon fatty acid, and it contains two carbon-carbon double bonds. So it is called polyunsaturated fat. Okay, so linoleic acid and oleic acid and stearic acid, all the three fatty acids contain 18 carbon, but stearic acid does not contain any carbon-carbon double bond, so it is called saturated fatty acid. And oleic acid contain one carbon-carbon double bond. It is then it is a monounsaturated fatty acid, and linoleic acid contain two carbon-carbon double bond, so it is called polyunsaturated fatty acid. So you can understand the difference between saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. Okay. Is that clear for you?
Yes, yes.
Okay. If you have any questions, you are most welcome to stop me at any time. And here you can see some saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. I told you that fatty acids, they have usually even numbered carbons, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20, like. Okay. So when saturated fatty acids contain 12 carbon, it is the common name for that is lauric acid. And fatty acids containing 14 carbon, it is common name for that is myristic. 16 palmitic, 18 stearic, 20 arachidic acid. So unsaturated fatty acids, it is when having 16 carbon and one double bond, it is palmitoleic acid. Then 18 carbon and one double bond, it is called oleic acid. 18 carbon and 12, two carbon-carbon double bonds, it is linoleic acid. 18 carbon and 3 carbon-carbon double bonds, it is linolenic acid. And 20 carbon and 4 double bonds, arachidonic acid. So these are common fatty acids found in our diet. Okay. So here you can see saturated and unsaturated fatty acids found in oils, common vegetable oils. You can see coconut oil contain very high number of saturated fat. So what is your opinion? Is saturated fat good for health or bad for health? You know these things. You might have heard about these things.
Bad for health.
Yes, usually saturated fatty acid considered bad for health because it can increase we will talk about that later, LDL cholesterol level in our body. Okay, so saturated fatty acids is kind of considered not good for health. Okay, but based on that argument, our many people in our country also has argued that coconut oil is not good for health. But if we consider that a little more deep, coconut, even though coconut oil contain more than 90% saturated fat, coconut oil containing the saturated fat in coconut oil are medium chain fatty acids. Okay, so medium chain fatty acids usually cannot store in our body. It is used for energy formation and other things. So we cannot say that even though coconut oil contain this kind of higher number of saturated fatty acids, it is not good for health. Okay. Some ගොඩක් කට්ටිය මම දැක්කා මේ පහුගිය දවස්වල argue කරලා තිබ්බා, especially doctors, GMO and other people. They have argued that coconut oil is not good for health because it contains higher number of saturated fatty acids. But it is not true. Coconut oil is very good for our health, especially countries like Sri Lanka. We have to promote coconut oil because even though coconut oil contains higher number of saturated fatty acids, more than half of that saturated fatty acids are containing lauric acid, which is a medium chain fatty acid. So this kind of medium chain fatty acids cannot store in our body. Usually these kind of medium chain fatty acids are used for energy formation and other metabolic activities in our body. So it is not usually stored in our body. So I cannot see a huge detrimental effect of coconut oil in our diet. Okay, I'm in the argument that coconut oil is very good for health. Okay, and you can see the level of saturated fat, monounsaturated fat, and polyunsaturated fat in common animal and vegetable oils. Okay, please refer this figure carefully. And here again, it contains the same thing in a very clear manner. Okay, see, you can see that coconut oil contains very higher level of saturated fat. But you as food scientists, as people who are learning food science, you should be able to argue with the people only think about saturated fat level in coconut. Okay, but see the fatty acid profile of coconut oil. Even though this contains more than 90%, 92% of saturated fat, most of this saturated fat is from lauric acid, which is a medium chain fatty acid, which is not good for, which is not have adverse health effects for our adverse health effects in our body. Okay, then based on that definition, some people has promoted corn oil and soybean oil and other things, but when considering coconut oil, I can say that it is not as bad as they are claiming. Okay, you can see again saturated and unsaturated fatty acid levels in animal fats and vegetable oils. Okay, usually animal fats contain a higher level of saturated fat, and usually these kind of fats are in the form of solid at room temperature, and therefore they are usually referred as animal fat. And when it comes to vegetable triglycerides, they are usually referred as vegetable oils. එහෙම නේද? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි කියන්නේ animal fat සහ vegetable oils කියලා. එතකොට මේ දෙකේ වෙනස. ඒ animal fat කියලා කියන්නේ මේ triglycerides room temperature එකේ තියෙන්නේ solid විදියට. Then in plant sources, vegetable triglycerides, they are usually, they have higher unsaturated fatty acids, and they are existing in the form of liquid, and thereby they are called as oils. Okay, so you should be able to differentiate between those two terms. Okay, and omega number. Usually when in nutrition, you might have heard about omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Please understand why some fatty acids called omega-3 and some fatty acids called omega-6. Okay, omega number refers to the position of the double bond nearest the methyl end of the carbon chain. I said that usually for a fatty acid, there are two ends, methyl end and acid end. So when the first double bond of fatty acid occur in the third carbon and the fourth carbon, that kind of fatty acid is referred as omega-3 fatty acid. Okay, and the double bond between carbon and carbon occur in the sixth and seventh carbon. That kind of fatty acids are called omega-6 fatty acids. Okay, so that is the scientific theory behind preferring omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Okay, පැහැදිලිද? omega-3 කියලා කියන්නේ මේ methyl end එකේ ඉඳන් තුන්වෙනි කාබන් එක සහ හතරවෙනි කාබන් එක අතර double bond එකක් තියෙන fatty acids. Then omega-6 means fatty acids containing double bond between the sixth, starting from 6 carbon and 7 carbon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Then this omega-3 fatty acids can be monounsaturated as well as polyunsaturated. Okay. Then this contain 3 carbon double bonds. But the first carbon double bond occurred starting from the third carbon from the methyl end. So this is omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acid. And here again, this fatty acid contain 2 carbon double bonds, and the first double bond occur between 6th carbon and the 7th carbon, and in this is again a omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acid. So this can be monounsaturated as well as polyunsaturated. Okay, when we refer in omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, we cannot say that they are monounsaturated or polyunsaturated. It can be monounsaturated as well as polyunsaturated. Okay, you should know that. And here you can see sources of omega fatty acids: omega-6 linoleic acid and arachidonic acids, linoleic acids, vegetable oils like corn oil, sunflower, safflower, soybean, cottonseed, poultry fat, nut seeds are good sources of linoleic acids, and meats, poultry, egg, and animal fats are good sources of arachidonic acid. And omega-3 fatty acids, linolenic acid, oils like flaxseed, canola, walnut, wheat, germ, soybean, nuts and seeds, and vegetable soybeans are good sources of omega-3 fatty acids. And EPA and DHA, we will talk about these fatty acids also, which have a vital nutritional role in our health. Okay, then they are EPA and DHA are also kind of omega-3 fatty acids, and they are good. They are available in human milk and fish oils. Okay, and here you can see another major sources of various fatty acids, monounsaturated fatty acids. omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids and omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids. Okay. And then I'm going to talk with you about the role of fats and oils in the body. As we mentioned earlier, fats and oils are a good source of energy. It can provide 9 kilocalorie of energy per 1 gram of fat or oil, and it is one of the primary role of fats and oil. And apart from that, insulation and protection and cell membrane constituents roles of fats and oils. Okay, and in our food, fats provide energy and contribute to flavor, aroma, and tenderness, and provide satiety. It means fullness, and it carry fat-soluble vitamins. You know that with vitamin K, A, D, and E are fat-soluble vitamins. So, in order to get such fat-soluble vitamins, we need fats. Okay, and also fats provide a source of essential fatty acids. Okay, then this term is very important: essential fatty acids. Okay, so these are the dietary roles of fats in our diet. And then we are going to talk about essential fatty acids. I think you can remember what is meant by essential amino acids. Can you remember what is meant by essential amino acids?
We have to take them with foods.
Yes, we defined essential amino acids as the amino acids which cannot synthesize in our body, and we have to provide them to our body through our diet. So likewise, similarly, essential fatty acids, we cannot synthesize these fatty acids in our body. You know that I think we discussed that in biochemistry. In beta oxidation process, we can synthesize many fatty acids, okay, in our body. Okay, but these fatty acids, essential fatty acids, we cannot synthesize them in our body, so they are called essential fatty acids, and we need to provide them through our diet. And there are two such fatty acids, essential fatty acids for human. Okay, you can if you can remember, there are 8 such essential amino acids for human. So there are 2 essential fatty acids for human. Yes, these 2 essential fatty acids are polyunsaturated fatty acids. You know what is meant by polyunsaturated fatty acids. And the 2 essential fatty acids for human are linoleic acid, which is an omega-6 fatty acid, and alpha linolenic acid, which is an omega-3 fatty acid. Okay, so I discussed with you about fatty acids, omega number, and other things at the beginning of this lecture to provide you a great understanding about what is meant by this omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. Otherwise, I cannot directly come to this topic, but you have to understand the background. Okay, now you know what is meant by omega-6, what is meant by omega-3. Okay, then this linoleic acid and alpha linolenic acid are the 2 essential fatty acids for our for human, and we need to provide them through our diet. Okay, and usually in our diet, omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio should be 3 to 1, and in between 6 to 1 is more recommended. Okay, we will, when we talk about dietary recommendations, I will explain that again. Okay, so omega-6 fatty linoleic acid and alpha linoleic acid are considered essential fatty acids for human, and we need to get them through our diet because we cannot synthesize them in our body. Okay, you might have heard that omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids are very good uh, uh, need for the good health of human. So reason for that is they are essential. It means they cannot synthesize in body. Okay, I am pretty sure that you might have heard about omega 6 and omega 3 rich eggs, meat, and other things also. So as a solution for that, as animal and poultry products, they incorporate these essential fatty acids to such products. Okay, there are various methods for that. You might have heard that in other subjects. Okay, so understand the background behind this. Okay, then these essential fatty acids are very important for our health. Okay, it has a very vital nutritional role in our body. So these essential fatty acids helping to form membrane barrier that surrounds our cells and organella, which determines fluidity, flexibility, and chemical reactivity of membranes, and regulating oxygen use, electron transport, and energy production. And these essential fatty acids are necessary for the proper development and functioning of the brain. Okay, thereby, especially for children, we need to provide such essential fatty acids. Okay, it is not, these essential fatty acids is not just required for production of energy. It has a very important nutritional role in our body. Okay, and for these essential fatty acids are involved with our vision. Okay, they are essential and they are very helpful in our vision and our eye health. These essential fatty acids involved in with the expression of number of genes, including those involved with fatty acid metabolism and inflammation, and therefore these essential fatty acids have some defense role in our body, and they act as precursors of prostaglandins. This is a hormone-like substance, and it has many roles in our body, prostaglandins, especially in pregnancy and lactating. So it has a vital role. So essential fatty acids act as precursors for prostaglandins. This is not a hormone, but it's a hormone-like substance, and help to transport cholesterol. It is good and essential for our maintain our heart health, and like involved with inflammation, it has immune effect, and essential for fight against infections, and help to prevent development of allergies. So these are nutritional role of essential fatty acids, and there are many such importance of essential fatty acids in our body. So we need to provide that essential fatty acids through our diet. Okay, understand the essential fatty acid rich foods. That is why many foods are promoting that they have this omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Okay, in order to have the proper functions of these roles, we have to provide essential fatty acids to our body in adequate amounts. Okay. And you might have heard about EPA and DHA, eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid. When you are doing your fish related subjects, you might have heard about these two. Okay, they are rich fish oil, especially they are rich in this EPA and DHA. Okay, then sometimes you might have heard that they are essential fatty acids, but actually it is not. Okay, in our body, from linoleic acid, we can synthesize arachidonic acid in our body, and from alpha linolenic acid we can synthesize eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid in our body. But the efficiency of forming these EPA and DHA is very less in human. Therefore, sometimes these EPA and DHA are considered conditionally essential fatty acids, fat, and usually it is recommended to take these EPA and DHA through our diet. Okay, මේ EPA and DHA කියන අපිට අපේ ශරීරය ඇතුළත ඇත්තටම හදාගන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් ඒකේ efficiency එක ගොඩක් අඩුයි. ඒකෙන් හින්දා අපි කියනවා මේවා මේ ආහාරයෙන් ගන්න එක වැදගත් කියලා. Okay, then sometimes these EPA and DHA are considered essential, conditionally essential fatty acids. Okay, you know that this fish oil is rich of EPA and DHA. Okay. So long chain omega-3 fatty acids, eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid, can be synthesized from alpha linolenic acid, but due to the low conversion efficiency, it is recommended to consume foods rich in EPA and DHA. Okay, understand that also. And I have included the importance of DHA for human. It has it enhances cognitive functions, especially for brain development. It required docosahexaenoic acid, and it has a neuro protection and visual acuity in human infants, and may reduce Alzheimer's disease and other type of dementia, which are neurodegenerative diseases. And this kind of important roles are there in DHA. So therefore, since we have very low conversion efficiency of DHA from ALA, it means alpha linolenic acid, it is recommended to take DHA and EPA from our diet. Okay, and find about nutritional importance of EPA. It means eicosapentaenoic acid and linoleic acid. Okay, and you can find more about essential fatty acids by going to this resource. Okay, I will not discuss about fat digestion. Please, you can get a very good idea by going through this figure, and we have discussed that in biochemistry, and refresh your knowledge. And adipose tissue. What do you know about adipose tissue? Usually fat is deposited in adipose tissues. You know that unlike during the last lecture, you learned that we cannot store proteins and nitrogens in our body. Okay, unlike that, we can store lipids. It means fats in our body. Okay, then adipose tissue is the place that store fat in our body as triglycerides. Okay, then adipose tissue is a specialized connective tissue consisting of lipid-rich cells called adipocytes. And the main function of adipose tissue is to store energy in the form of fat. It means triglyceride. And you know that people who are eating lipid-rich foods, usually they are obese. The reason for that is this adipose tissue. Okay, people who are eating too much lipid or fat-rich foods, then the excess fat is stored in adipose tissue, and usually we consider that 25% of one individual's weight is from adipose tissue. අපි කියනවා සාමාන්‍ය මනුස්සයෙක්ගේ 25ක් විතර බර තියෙන adipose tissue. Okay, then you know that if we eat very high intake of fats, then our adipose tissue will be very large. So it will lead adverse health effects of obesity, overweight, and it can stimulate other non-communicable diseases. So when we talking about fats, we need to consider about adipose tissue in our body. Okay. In dietary fat is brought to the adipose tissue direct from the intestine in the form of chylomicrons and from the liver as very low density lipoproteins. And also not only fat but also dietary glucose is also transported to adipose tissue and they are converted to triglycerides. Okay, not only fat but also glucose also can store in adipose tissue by converting them into triglycerides. And it is not a passive store of fat, and it has metabolic activities. It means for energy production, this adipose tissue can consume. We sometimes tell that people with higher body weight, it means a higher adipose tissue, they can survive a few more days than people having lower adipose tissue. The reason for that is they have higher energy storage. Okay, අපි කියනවා නේද අපි ගොඩාක් මහත කෙනෙක්ට මැරෙන්න නැතුව ඉන්න පුළුවන් ටික කාලයක් කෙට්ටු කෙනෙක්ට වඩා. The reason for that is the adipose tissue. Okay, you know that lipid or fat is a great source of energy, and it is stored in that adipose tissue. So people with higher body weight, usually they have a higher adipose tissue. Okay, and we can find adipose tissue all over the body. Okay, and adipose tissue is commonly known as body fat. It is found all over the body. It can be found under the skin. It is called subcutaneous fat around internal organs. It is called visceral fat between muscles and within bone marrow and in breast tissue. Okay, and then we can find adipose tissue in many places in the body. Okay, so major portion of the dietary energy, both as fat and carbohydrates, is taken to adipose tissue and deposited as triglycerides. And between meals, where the adipose tissue reserves are drawn upon to provide fuel for muscle and other tissues, triglycerides are broken down to free fatty acids. Okay, when we need energy, these triglycerides are broken down to free fatty acids, and through the beta oxidation process, one can produce energy. And insulin stimulates the synthesis of adipose tissue, triglycerides from glucose, and the uptake of plasma triglycerides into the adipose tissue. And catecholamine and glucagon, which appear in plasma in increased amounts during fasting, have the opposite effect. They favor lipolysis. It means glycogen and catecholamine can break down triglycerides into free fatty acids and glycerol and water. Okay, then in healthy man, adipose tissue may amount to 8 to 15 kilogram, while in healthy woman, it may be around 10 to 20 kilogram. In a very emaciated patient, it may be reduced to about 1 kilogram, but in an obese person, it may be over 100 kilogram. So I told you that usually in an obese person, they have a very high adipose tissue, and their weight is increased because they have very dense adipose tissue. And this internal adipose tissue has an important role in providing protective cushions for various organs. Under biological functions of lipids, I told you that. And the internal fat acts as an insulator, conserving body heat. Also, we discussed that. So these functions, we have these functions from lipid because of that adipose tissue. Okay, and adipose tissue contain adipocytes. Adipocytes, the cells of adipose tissue is called adipocytes, and major portion of these cells contain triglycerides. Okay, you can see adipose tissue contains about 80 to 85% fat, 2% protein, and 10% water. Okay, then the fat content can be increased to 90% of the weight in a fatty person. Okay, and usually the adipose tissue is a very good way to understand people's dietary patterns. Okay, you know that if in a healthy person, adipose tissue is not very thin, and it is not very thick. Okay, then when adipose tissue is very thin, it means they are not taking their diet, the energy through fat. Okay, then it is very high. It means they are taking excessive amount of fat. Okay, and the good thing is we can modify adipose tissue by changing our dietary patterns. Okay, that's how people get lose weight, by changing their dietary habits. Okay, සමහරවල් කියන්නේ ගොඩාක් මහත කෙනෙක් කෙට්ටුණා නැත්නම් කෙට්ටු කෙනෙක් මහතුණා, ඒ වෙන්නේ මේ adipose tissue එක නිසා. We can modify that, which is a good thing. Okay, so in dietary the weight management, so usually we take less when we need to reduce body weight. We take lower amount of fat. Okay, so this is about adipose tissue, and I am pretty sure that you might have heard about cis fatty acids and trans fatty acids. Okay, usually we do not promote trans fatty acids in our diet. Okay, you have to know the reason for that. So I thought of giving such information would be worth for you. So I included about cis trans isomerism of fatty acids. Okay, the double bond of in fatty acids, it means in unsaturated fatty acids occur in either cis or the trans configuration, representing different isomeric structures. Okay, usually in natural fats or fatty acids, it contains cis isomerism. Okay, cis isomeric structure. But in artificial fatty acids, it means fatty acids made from human activities. It means by modifying fatty acids. You know that under some conditions like hydrogenation, uh, the saturation level of fatty acids is modified. So through such conditions, trans fatty acids can be produced. Okay, then this trans fatty acids is not considered health in our diet. Okay, not considered health for human. Okay, therefore many countries have uh, banned the production of trans fatty acids, especially in fast food. It can contain trans fatty acids. Okay, that is why uh, fast foods are not considered healthy. Uh, are not considered healthy. Okay, then in the cis form and transform, you know that you might have learned this under your advanced level chemistry. The hydrogen atoms attached to the carbon atoms of the double bond are located on the same side on the double bond, and in the transform, hydrogen atoms are located on opposite side of the double bond across one uh, across from one another. Okay, usually in natural fats and fatty acids, we can see the cis form. Okay, it's like this cis form. The hydrogen atoms are in the same side, but in the transform, hydrogen atoms are located in the opposite sides. Okay, this is the natural form, and through partial hydrogenation, this type of trans fatty acids can be formed. Okay, this type of trans fatty acids is not considered health because it can increase the LDL level in our body. Okay, we will see what is the uh, adverse effect of LDL level when we have higher LDL level in our body. Okay, then this trans fatty acid contribute to increase the LDL level. Especially, it is not good for our heart health. Okay, then thereby trans fatty acid is not considered healthy. Okay, see, uh, you can see some harmful trans fatty acids and they are abundant sources like fried foods, hydrogenated shortenings, margarine, hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated margarine, non-dairy creamers, many fast foods, shortenings, commercial baked goods, and many snack foods. Okay, then they are uh, abundant sources of trans fatty acids. Okay, so trans fat. So as I mentioned, eating foods rich in trans fat increases the amount of harmful low density lipoprotein or LDL cholesterol in the bloodstream and reduces the amount of beneficial HDL cholesterol. And and it is linked to heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and other chronic conditions thereby. And also it can contribute to insulin resistance, and which will enhance the risk of type 2 diabetes, and thereby producing trans fat is banned in many countries, in US as well as in other countries, but we should know that these trans fats can be produced when we produce in can be produced in fast can be present in fast foods. Okay, even very small amount of trans fats can harm health. For every 2% of calorie from trans fat consumed daily, the risk of heart disease rises by 23%. So you can understand the risk of having trans fat in our diet. So thereby, it is not recommended to take energy from trans fat. Okay, so it is never recommended to take energy from trans fat. Okay, we have to limit as much as possible the level of trans fats. Okay, so even saturated fats, you know that low and medium chain saturated fatty acids, it is not bad for health. Okay, we can have saturated fat in our diet, but trans fats, it is never recommended. Okay, and hydrogenation is a process of conversion of uh, uh, one kind of fat to other form. Okay, so it is a very basic process. It means addition of hydrogen. So hydrogen is the process of adding hydrogen to unsaturated fatty acids to reduce the number of double bonds. The purpose of hydrogenation is twofold. One is to convert liquid oils to semi-solid or solid. Okay, and to increase the thermal and oxidative stability of the fat and thus the shelf life. Okay, to convert unsaturated fat to saturated fat, we do this process, hydrogenation. Okay, then in hydrogenation, we can convert liquid oil into solid. Okay, sometimes in food processing, having solid is easy to handle. And also, you know that when there's a double bonds, many chemical reactions can be occurred. So it is quite unstable. But saturated fatty acids, they are they have oxidative stability. Okay, thereby they have higher shelf life. So to achieve such purposes, we do hydrogenation. See, this is the hydrogenation process. So for polyunsaturated fatty acids, through hydrogenation, we can make saturated fatty acids. Okay, so this is not a I have included just for your information. So to convert oil into fat, we can use this hydrogenation process. It is used in the food industry, but during this hydrogenation process, especially in partial hydrogenation, it can form trans fats. Okay, so it is quite dangerous. Okay, when it is full hydrogenation, it is quite okay, but in the partial hydrogenation, you know that some double bonds will remain, and usually the artificial fats are trans fats. Okay, so that is major thing to remind when we do the hydrogenation. Okay, thereby this partial hydrogenation is not recommended. Okay, then some countries have banned such thing. Okay, so you know, in partial hydrogenation, some double bonds can remain, and this double bond due to that remaining double bonds, it may in the form of trans isomeric structure. So you know that trans isomeric structure is not good for our health. Okay. So that's the reason for not recommending fat. And I have discussed about fats and oils so far. So in the very beginning, I told you that lipids are not only fats and oils. It contains some other chemical compounds like sterols. So sterols, okay. Then sterols are in plants as well as animal sources, okay. Then cholesterol is such sterol which is only present in animal sources, okay. In sterols, it has a steroid nucleus. It means a 4 fused rings, okay. Cholesterol has this structure as well as sterols can be from plant sources, okay. Sterols කියන ඒවා plant origin වෙන්න පුළුවන්, animal origin වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් cholesterol කියන එක, which is a kind of sterol, it is only present in animal sources, okay. Cholesterol කියන එක plants වල නැහැ. Then when I have seen that some coconut and palm oil producers, they promote that their coconut oil is free from cholesterol. Then it is true. Then why should they promote their coconut oil is free from cholesterol? There's no point. It is kind of misleading. Why? Because cholesterol is never present in plant sources, okay. Then many people, they are much concerned about cholesterol. You know that many people having that problem, especially high blood pressure and heart diseases due to the higher level of cholesterol in their body, okay. Then they tend to take cholesterol free foods. So food manufacturers use that thing, and they tend to promote that their product is cholesterol free, okay. But you should know that cholesterol is only present in animal sources, okay. But sterols, it is not. Sterols can present in plant sources also, okay. And cholesterol is an animal lipid. Other than telling it's fat, it's better to tell it's consider it as a lipid, a sterol or fatty alcohol made from glucose or saturated fatty acids. And it is yellow and waxy. The full amount needed for the production of vitamin D and the creation of cell membrane is made in the liver. And you know that cholesterol, we need cholesterol to produce vitamin D as well as some hormones and as structural components of cell membranes, okay. But our body can produce cholesterol. Thereby, we do not need a significant amount of cholesterol through our diet, okay. Unlike essential fatty acids, we do not essentially take cholesterol through our diet. We can produce cholesterol in our liver, okay. We should know that. And this higher level of cholesterol usually involved with many non-communicable diseases. We will discuss that, okay. All cholesterol from the liver or the diet is transported through the bloodstream out to the body tissue in molecules called lipoproteins, okay. Then usually fats as well as cholesterol transport from one place to another using transport lipids called lipoproteins. In lipoproteins, it contains lipids as well as proteins, okay. That is why it's called lipoproteins, okay. Then they are large and complex and made from a large quantity of lipid and a small amount of protein, lipoproteins. It is a combination of lipids and proteins. Okay, then LDL and HDL, which we have much concern nowadays, are such lipoproteins. Okay, LDL is the low density lipoproteins, and HDL is the high density lipoproteins. Okay, and LDL is considered the bad cholesterol or bad lipid because this LDL can deposit in our arteries and our uh, uh, blood vessels. Okay, then it can limit the blood circulation and form many problems like heart diseases. But unlike LDL, low density lipoproteins, high density lipoprotein is considered good because high density lipoprotein helps to bring back low density lipoproteins and other cholesterol to liver for its metabolism. Okay, thereby LDL cholesterol or LDL lipoprotein, we can usually it is called LDL cholesterol because this lipid is in the form of cholesterol or other lipid, so other fat, and we can say that LDL low density lipoprotein or low density cholesterol, and high density lipoprotein or high density cholesterol. Okay, then low density lipoprotein can cause many health effects. Okay, and it is considered not good for health. And also the trans fat we discussed in the last the previous slides, they can enhance the LDL cholesterol level in our blood, which is not good for health. Okay, as well as saturated fat, they can enhance the LDL cholesterol level. That is why they are not considered very good. Their higher intake is not promoted. Okay, then when we discussing about the coconut oil, I told you that lauric acid is a medium chain fatty acid, and usually lauric acid is not involved with LDL cholesterol increasement. Okay, that is why we call coconut oil is not that bad. Okay, so that's the reason behind calling trans fat and saturated fat is can force adverse effects to human health due to this, due to the contributing to increased amount of LDL lipoproteins or LDL cholesterol. Okay, here you can see structure of lipoprotein. Usually a lipoprotein have a higher number of lipids and very low number of proteins. Okay, and lipids is transported from one place to another using this as lipoproteins. Okay, then these lipoproteins are in different forms. One is a low density lipoprotein, one is higher density lipoprotein, and apart from that, chylomicrons and very low density lipoprotein are there. Okay. Okay. Here you can see dietary cholesterol levels of some common foods. Please study the figures carefully. Okay. You can see that cholesterol is coming from animal sources, and you can see foods which have higher cholesterol level here. In meat items, usually it has higher cholesterol. Okay, The problem of cholesterol is that they can deposit in our arteries. You can see when we consider the health effects of lipids, not only fats and oils. Okay, usually heart diseases are the main concern. Okay, the reason behind is that these uh, lipids can deposit in our arteries. Okay, excess fat intake contribute to many diseases, including obesity, heart diseases, cancer, as well as diabetes. Okay, you know that obesity uh, is can occur because higher fat intake uh, may increase the adipose tissue level and increase the body weight. And diabetes can occur because uh, you know that blood glucose level can manipulate by triglycerides. Okay. Apart from that, some cancers um, can promoted by excess fat intake and heart diseases. Okay. See, heart disease and lipids. When we talking about lipids, our main concern is the heart health. Okay. Too much hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated fat, trans fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol has the same effect in the body. They contribute to heart disease. How they contribute to heart disease is that as the fats are dispersed in the bloodstream, they are sticky and cling to the interior walls of the arteries. And they build up occurs, plaque is manufactured, and this is called atherosclerosis. And the hardening of arteries can happen. See, you can see when cholesterol deposited on arteries, then a plaque can form and it disturb the blood circulation. Then this will directly affect to our heart. We know that for the function of heart, we have to provide health, provide blood. Okay, then this limit the blood circulation. Okay, so it directly involved with heart health. Okay, and when we consider the safe cholesterol levels for adults, usually it's we have to maintain total blood cholesterol level below 200 milligram per deciliter is desirable. So if our blood glucose blood cholesterol level is more than 240, then we have a higher chance of having heart diseases and high blood pressure. And also LDL blood cholesterol level should be maintained below 70 milligrams per deciliter. And HDL blood cholesterol, HDL is considered good, and it should maintain above 60 milligrams per deciliter. And the triglyceride level usually should below 150 milligrams per deciliter. Okay, so these are the desirable levels of lipids in our blood. Okay, when you are checking for cholesterol in your blood, usually these 4 parameters are measured. Okay, if you have done that earlier, you know that in your report it contains total blood cholesterol, LDL blood cholesterol, HDL blood cholesterol, and triglyceride level. Okay, so if I'm pretty sure that you or your family member definitely must must have checked for cholesterol and see that kind of report. You will find these 4 measures. Okay, and when we talk in the recommended daily allowance of lipids, we recommend, WHO recommend to take 30% of your daily calorie intake from fats. Okay, generally the dietary recommendation is that 30% of our daily calorie intake should come from fats. Okay, කියන්නේ 130ක් අපේ කැලරි වලින් කැලරි අපිට අවශ්‍ය කැලරි වලින් 130ක් ප්‍රමාණයක් ෆැට් වලින් සපය ගන්නට අවශ්‍යයි. Okay, so if you need to, we can, unlike in protein, we cannot say a definite number for fat. So if you can remember, in the last lecture I told you that for a healthy adult, dietary intake of protein is 0.8 gram per kilogram per body weight per day. But we cannot say a definite amount for lipid. Okay, the calorie intake is different from person to person. It is depend on the gender, age, as well as the occupation and the nutritional status. Okay, so if you need to calculate your recommended daily allowance of lipid or fat, you have to know your daily calorie intake, recommended daily calorie amount, and you have to multiply it by 25% and then divide by 9 to get your fat gram allowance. So for example, if you need 1500 calories per day, you have to multiply it by 25%, and then you have to divide it by 9. So your recommended daily allowance would be 42 fat grams per day. Okay, likewise, using this simple calculation, you can calculate your daily allowance of fat. Okay, so for that you need to know your recommended daily calorie intake. Okay, so when we talk about the dietary recommendations of lipids, 20 to 35% of calories from total fat, with most coming from polyunsaturated fatty acids and monounsaturated fatty acids. So I told you that when we talking about recommended daily allowance, 30% of our calorie intake should come from fats. It's a general number, and many countries recommend to take 20 to 35% of calories from fat. Okay, so this is a general range for fat intake. Okay, then this is different from Sri Lankan recommendations and USA recommendations. Then this is quite variable, but we can have this general figure, 20 to 35%. Okay, and you have to limit the cholesterol intake less than 30 milligram per day, and among the say 20 to 35% of calorie from total fat, the saturated fat level should be less than 10% of kilocalorie intake. Okay, මේ 100ට අපි හිතමුකෝ අපිට 130ක් ගන්න කියලා කියනවා නම් ෆැට් වලින් කැලරි ඉන්ටේක් එක, saturated fat ප්‍රමාණය 110ට වඩා අඩු වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ 130කින් 110කට වඩා අඩු වෙන්න ඕනේ saturated fat ප්‍රමාණය. Okay, and up to 10% from, we have to take 10% from polyunsaturated fatty acids and much as 15% from monounsaturated fatty acids. Okay, then polyunsaturated fatty acid content should be about 10%, and we have to we promote to take much monounsaturated fatty acids. Okay, so I don't know whether you have heard about Mediterranean diet. It is considered the best diet in the world. Okay, usually in Mediterranean diet they have higher amount of monounsaturated fatty acids, usually coming from olive oil. Okay, then find about Mediterranean diet. and it is the most recommended diet. Okay, then we promote ingestion of higher number of monounsaturated fatty acids, usually from avocado, olive oil, and other good monounsaturated fatty acid sources. And omega-6 to omega-3 ratio should be in between 3 to 1 and 6 to 1. And say if you take 6 grams of omega-6 fatty acids, you have to take 2 grams of omega-3 fatty acids. Okay, then by using this ratio, you can identify that we promote higher intake of omega-6 fatty acids than omega-3 fatty acids. Okay, this is also a recommendation to maintain it 3 to 1 or 6 to 1 ratio. Okay, and partially hydrogenated oil containing trans fatty acid should be avoided. Okay, trans fats have no known health benefits, and that there is no safe level of consumption. Okay, we have to reduce means eliminate the trans fatty acids from our diet. Okay, that's the recommendation. Okay, even there's no safe level for trans fatty acid, it is that much bad. Okay, even saturated fatty acids, it is okay to have less than 10% of our calorie intake from saturated fatty acids, but for trans fats, you know that there is no recommendation, even a safe number. Okay, so it shows us the dangerous of having trans fatty acids in our diet. Okay, so I got this from WHO recommendations. Usually this is the dietary recommendations for lipids. Okay, if you simplify that again, අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කියන 130ක් පමණ අපේ calorie intake එක ගන්න ඕනේ fat වලින්. ඒතර ඒ 130න් 110ක් විතර අපි ගන්න ඕනේ. 130 110 නෙමෙයි. අපි හිතමුකෝ 130ක් fat වලින් ගන්නවා කියලා. එතකොට ඒක තුනකට බෙදුවොත් එimhe 110 10 10 වගේ 110ට වඩා අඩුවෙන් ගන්න ඕනේ saturated fat. 110ක් පමණ ගන්න recommend කරනවා polyunsaturated fatty acids. monounsaturated fatty acids 110ට වඩා ගන්න recommend කරනවා. පැහැදිලිද? මේ 130න් තමයි මෙන්න මේ තුන වෙන් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒතකොට total calorie intake එකකින් saturated fatty acid level එක 110ට වඩා අඩු වෙන්න ඕනේ. polyunsaturated fatty acid ප්‍රමාණය 110ක් පමණ වෙන්න ඕනේ. monounsaturated fatty acid ප්‍රමාණය 115ක් 10ට වඩා වැඩි වෙන්න ඕනේ. පැහැදිලිද? එතකොට මේ තුනේ එකතුව තමයි 130ක් වෙන්න ඕනේ. saturated fats, polyunsaturated fatty acids and monounsaturated fatty acids. Okay, you have to understand that carefully. Okay, usually we recommend to take about 30% of our calorie intake from fat, and we have to limit the saturated fat level to less than 10% of that total calorie intake, and about up to 10% from polyunsaturated fatty acids, and as much as possible from monounsaturated fatty acids like olive oil. Okay, usually people having Mediterranean diet in Italy, in Greece, such like countries, heart diseases are very less. Okay, they have good health indices. Okay, so we have to promote polyunsaturated fatty acids and monounsaturated fatty acid intake, and you know that omega-6 and omega-3, they are essential fatty acids, and they are among the essential fatty acids, omega-6 intake is promoted than omega-3. We have to take omega-3 also, but high intake should be for omega-6. And partially hydrogenated oils is never recommended to have in our diet. Okay, So sometimes I have seen that margarine and other things we use those things to make many foods. Okay, but it is not good to have such fat sources in our diet. Okay, usually margarine is made from hydrogenation process. Okay, then if it is not the full hydrogenation, partially hydrogenated fatty acids can be there, and they are made from artificially and usually in the form of trans isomeric structure. So it is not good for health. Okay, so it is strictly should be avoided. So here's a question for you. Find about Mediterranean diet. This is very interesting topic. Please find about this one. And you can find more about the fat by going to these sources. Okay, so that's what I plan to talk with you today. Do you have any questions? Okay, then RML or Ratnayaka posted the question that when it comes to unsaturated, is there any difference between monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids in related to nutritional aspects? Which one is better to consume? Okay, monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids both are promoted, and among them it is better to consume higher level of monounsaturated fatty acid than polyunsaturated fatty acid. Okay, so I think I have mentioned that in I have answered your question using the dietary recommendations. Okay, then do you have any questions or any clarifications? Do you need any? Then I think I came to talk about nutritional importance of lipid by step. I discussed all the necessary details here, and I have included figures from very good uh, sources, books, and also I have uploaded ebook for you to read to LMS Essentials of Food Science, and you can find more details from that book also. Use that resource. It's a very good book, and you can find more details about this topic and other other areas in food science by referring that book. Okay, then so if you do not have other questions, I will stop from here. Thank you.